Hello, ako si Des Cavillan. Kayo ay nanonood ng bagong episode ng Newsbreak Beyond the Stories kung saan hihimayin natin ang mga maiinit at mahalagang isyu sa Pilipinas. Sa episode na to, pag-uusapan natin ang mga petisyon laban sa kandidatura ni Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Nagsampa ang ilang mga grupo para harangin ang pagtakbo sa pagkapangulo ng anak ng diktador. Hindi raw siya maaaring tumakbo sapagkat isa siyang convicted criminal. Tungkol saan bang tax conviction na hinarap ni Marcos noong 1997? Gaano katagal ang aabutin ng proseso ng pagdinig sa mga petisyon na ito na inihain sa Commission on Elections? Kasama ko ngayon si Lian Buan, Raptor reporter who covers the courts and also the campaign of Marcos para talakayin ang isyong ito. Hi Lian, thank you for joining me today.
Maraming salamat, Dudes. You're welcome.
Yes. So bago tayo magsimula, I would like to remind our audience who are watching right now, kung nasan man kayo, Facebook, YouTube, or even on Twitter, na pwede sila magtanong, no, or mag-express ng kanilang opinion. If they want to express their opinion or ask any question, just comment down below and we will try our best to answer your questions and address your sentiments as the program progresses. So Lian, please tell us about the petitions filed against Bongbong Marcos. What do they argue against his candidacy?
Alright, siguro, let's start with differentiating a petition to cancel a COC and the petition for disqualification. Ang final, so far, ay isang petition to cancel COC. This is the same as a petition to deny due course sa candidacy ni Bongbong Marcos. And then another, kasi nag-expire na yung deadline to file a petition to cancel COC nung November 2. The group of Fides Lim of Kapatid and the rest represented by Ted were able to file on the deadline. Yung sumunod na grupo na nire-representa ni Attorney Howard Calleja, hindi nila naabutan yung deadline, so they had to file something that is called a motion to intervene and a petition in intervention. So dahil late sila, kailangan nilang hingin yung permiso ng COMELEC kung pwedeng sumama na lang or mag-intervene dun sa naunang motion. So actually yung final nila, Attorney Calleja, noong Lunes, kailangan pang i-grant muna yun ng COMELEC to be able to, be considered an official petition. So those were the petitions filed. It was not a petition for disqualification. Those are two different things. So the petition to cancel COC has one exclusive ground. Isa lang ang ground niya. It has to have a misrepresentation. It has to have an unlawful misrepresentation in the COC that was filed by Bongbong Marcos, and both petitions argue that when Bongbong Marcos said in his COC that he was eligible to run for president and that he has not been found liable of an offense that perpetually disqualified him from public office, for them, that's misrepresentation and that's ground to deny due course to his COC and cancel his COC.
Yes. And you mentioned yun nga yung he was not truthful sa kanyang COC. At the center of this issue ay yung tax conviction ni Bongbong Marcos noong middle of 1990s, diba? Pwede mo ba ikwento sa amin kung tungkol saan ito at 1980s? Ano yung pwede mo ikwento sa amin kung ano yung important details na dapat malaman ng publiko tungkol dito? I remember you had to get official documents for this to get the full picture. Yan, hawak-hawak mo ngayon.
Yeah, so this the fiscal years na involved dito sa decision na to happened from 1982 to 1985. This was when Bongbong Marcos was first Vice Governor of Ilocos Norte and then Governor of Ilocos Norte. So nangyari yung mga years from 1982 to 1985. We can remember that in 1986 napatalsik sila, no, from yung pamilya nila ay napatalsik from Malacanang and they had to flee the country and go to Hawaii. Noong 1991 siya kinasuhan ng DOJ under the then President Corazon Aquino. Ito na yung may transition na tayo sa demokrasya. So charged siya noong 1991 and then noong 1994 the Regional Trial Court of Quezon City Branch 105 found him guilty of two offenses. Number one, guilty of failure to pay income taxes or tax evasion from 1982 to 1985, and then failure to file income tax returns or ITR in the same years from 1982 to 1985. That was in 1994. And then, syempre, as any convicted person, Bongbong Marcos appealed. And in 1997, the Court of Appeals modified the ruling of the QCRTC. So, inacquit nila si Bongbong of failure to pay income taxes. But they sustained the conviction for failure to file ITR from 1982 to 1985. What's kind of strange from the ruling of the Court of Appeals in 1997, hindi nila pinatawan ng imprisonment si Bongbong Marcos. Ang ginawa lang ay pinagbayad siya ng fines amounting to 36,000 pesos base fine na madadagdagan ng surcharge at interest. At the fact that he was not imposed a prison sentence, even though when you read the tax code, kahit yung 1977 tax code, kung saan kinasuhan si Bongbong Marcos, it says failure to file an ITR is punishable by both fine and imprisonment. So strange na walang imprisonment sentence sa kanya yung CA noong 1997. And then from the record that we have here, Bongbong Marcos was supposed to appeal pa his conviction to the Supreme Court and had in fact filed a motion for extension sa Supreme Court para ma-extend yung deadline niya sa pag-file ng appeal niya. But in 2001, he withdrew his motion for extension. And so in 2001, also in August, this modified conviction of the Court of Appeals became final and executory. Why am I mentioning yung kawalan ng imprisonment? Because one of the grounds of the petition now to cancel his COC is that the Omnibus Election Code says a person is not qualified to run for office if he has been convicted of a crime where he was sentenced to more than 18 months. Had the Court of Appeals imposed a sentence on Bongbong Marcos that was more than 18 months, that would have been a clear ground to be disqualified. But since walang imprisonment yung Court of Appeals ruling, then that is the gray area and that is up for legal debate kung madidisqualify siya.
Yeah, and before I want to ask you about what is the statement of the Bongbong Marcos camp regarding this petition, parang gusto ko i-question muna sa'yo. I know I haven't asked you this before, pero will this be a ground for a future DQ case? Kasi of course, it's still, wala pa namang kandidato, hindi pa naman start ang campaign season. Possible ba siya maging grounds or yung nakikita mo parang strongest shot na nila is itong pag-cancel ng COC?
Actually, yung framing ng petitions to cancel COC is actually kind of grounded on the petition for disqualification. Kasi ang ini-invoke nila is the Omnibus Election Code, Section 12, where it says kung sino yung madidisqualify. So actually, it should be a petition for disqualification kasi you're invoking the ground to be disqualified. But they opted, we don't know kung merong magpe-petition for DQ. Yeah. Pwede yun. It's actually a ground for disqualification. But what the two groups have opted so far is to file a petition to cancel COC or deny due course. We asked this to Attorney Howie Calleja kasi parang sinasabi, kapag ang nangyari ay na-cancel yung COC ni Bongbong Marcos, hindi siya pwedeng i-substitute ng kung sino man. Because there is no COC to be substituted. Ngayon, if it's a petition for disqualification and the COMELEC disqualifies Bongbong Marcos, then possibly he could be substituted by another person. That was one of the interpretation. And in-acknowledge naman yun ni Attorney Calleja, who said, yeah, baka pwede nga rin yun. That's why they are opting to file a petition to cancel COC.
Yeah. Ano naman sinasabi ng kampo ni Bongbong Marcos regarding sa petitions na to? What has he said so far or through his spokesman?
Attorney Vic Rodriguez and slightly si Bongbong Marcos nung nag-latest siya nung nakaraang linggo. They're calling this a nuisance petition. They're calling this the doing of wannabe yellow assassins, wannabe yellow political assassins. They are accusing Justice Carpio to be behind the moves. For the record, the first petition and the second petition do not have Justice Carpio as either petitioner or a counsel. But Justice Carpio, as we know, has been vocal about his legal take. He wrote a column, he appeared on a television show, and then Attorney Callejo, of course, as we know, is a convener of Isang Bayan, the opposition coalition, which is supporting Vice President Leni Robredo's candidacy. But Attorney Callejo says he is doing it in his personal capacity and not as Isang Bayan convener. But of course, syempre, dahil Isang Bayan ka, syempre, you can't, that perception cannot be helped. And he and Vice President Robredo appeared in a webinar, I think by the Rotary Club, wherein Attorney Callejo has said that he didn't talk to VP Leni about filing the petition, so dapat mapaghiwalay daw sila. So that has been the response so far. When you ask them of their legal take, they'll just say they have yet to read the official copy, hindi pa sila nasa-servan, they will answer it in the proper forum, but they will send press releases quoting legal experts who have spoken on their in favor of them. So number one, that's former Justice Secretary Alberto Agra, who's a GMA DOJ Secretary. Yun nga yung sinasabi niya na walang imprisonment eh. So wala yung ground ng disqualification. And he's saying that isa pa kasing ground sa Section 12 is you will be disqualified if you have been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude. Moral turpitude just means what you did was contrary to morals, justice, and fairness, and things like that. And former Secretary Agra is saying failure to file an ITR is not a crime of moral turpitude. And then they got Attorney Nilo Divina, the Dean of the UST Law School, to say that yung petition para daw ad hominem kasi daw it's an attack against the character of a person rather than the legal basis. Kasi if you read the petition, it really goes into the history of martial law, the abuses, the corruption. And in fairness naman to the conviction kasi ni Marcos has something to do with martial law rin naman talaga. Because he was elected governor, vice governor, and governor when his father was in power. So Dean Divina was saying parang ad hominem kasi parang binabalik yung martial law. And that's also the line of the Marcos camp. I tried to reach out to Dean Divina kasi hindi ko makita kung saan niya sinabi yun. Kung sinabi niya ba yun sa Marcos camp, tapos press release lang ng Marcos camp, or did he say it in an interview? Kasi yung kay Secretary Agra, he said it in a radio interview. So you could listen to it. Yung kay Dean, hindi ko makita. So I've been reaching out to him to ask him follow-ups, pero hindi pa siya sumasagot. So if he does reply, we will follow up. We will do a follow-up.
Yeah. I've been reading comments sa mga stories natin and then sa mga general discussion about this issue. Nakikita ko na sentiments or comments ng mga, of course, galing sa mga supporters ni Marcos ay, bakit ito nilabas na yon or hinain ngayon? Eh, nakatakbo naman si Marcos noong 2016. Di ba, nakatakbo ko siyang senator. Ano yung posibleng sagot na nakikita mo sa mga ganito mga counter or rebuttal ng mga tao from his camp?
Hindi ako yung nakakita. Sinabi to sa petition ni Attorney Callejo. Sorry, Judas, did you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, I mean ako, yeah.
Yes?
Yes. Yun nga, nakikita ko sa mga comment section.
Okay, sorry. Kasi from my end, parang hindi ko nakikita yung sarili ko. Anyway.
Yeah. Yun. Nakikita ko sa mga comment section, sinasabi na nakatakbo naman si Marcos noong 2016. Di ba, nanalo pang senator siya. Bakit ngayon pa lalabas ito? Bakit pa dito siya paharangin pa sa 2022? Bakit hindi ba ito nag-a-apply in the past elections? Ano yung posibleng sagot na nakikita mo dito?
Right. Una, ang sagot dyan ni Attorney Callejo ay, ngayon lang namin nalaman eh. Parang sabi niya. Sabi niya nga na parang, ngayon lang niyang election cycle nalaman na may ganitong conviction pala si Marcos. And actually ako din. I mean, journalist naman ako noong 2016 pero hindi ko rin to alam. So there's that excuse or reason na ngayon lang namin nalaman eh. But in the petition of Attorney Callejo, he cites a case. Let me just read the GR number so the viewers can search for it. It's GR number 193237. Again, that's GR number 193237, Haloshos versus Comelec. This is a Supreme Court en banc decision from 2012. So ito yung naging kaso sa kaso na to. And this is how this helps the Calleja petition. Si Dominador Haloshos was convicted of the crime of robbery in Cebu sometime in 1987. He was convicted of robbery in 1987. Pero he has been able to win as mayor of Dapitan, Zamboanga for 2 rounds from 2000 to bago 2010. So that would be 2004 and then 2007. So nanalo siya noong 2004, nanalo siya noong 2007. And actually noong 2007, finailan siya ng petition for disqualification. But he was not disqualified. Kasi parang nakakuha siya ng certificate of probation, natapos na yung sentence niya. And then in 2010, when he was running for his third term as re-election, yung kalaban niya, kinasuhan siya ng petition to cancel COC, alleging the same thing, misrepresentation in the COC because he had said in his COC that he was eligible to run for mayor when in fact he was not because meron nga siyang prior conviction. And what the COMELEC did actually in 2010, they canceled the COC of Dominador Haloshos even though nakatakbo na siya at nakapag-serve at nanalo na siya ng 2 termino as mayor. So they canceled the COC of Dominador Haloshos and naturally Haloshos elevated it hanggang makarating siya sa Supreme Court, reasoning out the same thing that I have been able to serve as mayor for 2 terms. So why do this to me now? The Supreme Court sustained the COMELEC's findings and really did cancel the COC of Haloshos and disqualified him from running. And in this decision, nilecturan ng Supreme Court ang COMELEC. Ang sabi ng Supreme Court sa COMELEC, you had the administrative mandate to investigate all the COCs that is filed in your office. Sabi ng Supreme Court dito, nobody even has to file any petition for you to have known that this man was not qualified to run. So merong ganong pangaral na kinote ang Calleja petition sa kanilang petition sa COMELEC na yun nga sinasabi dito that if the COMELEC does not fulfill its administrative mandate of motu proprio investigating every COC that is filed before it, then it would result in a situation where someone who is not qualified to run is able to serve 2 terms as mayor. So ganun. So yun yung kinote ng Calleja petition and intervention sa kanilang petition sa COMELEC.
Yun nga yung naiisip ko no, na parang paano nakakalusot sa COMELEC to, especially if as a high-ranking, high-profile as Bongbong Marcos na may mga kaso siyang hinarap in the past decades, no? Pero parang it begs the question na baka posible ba na dapat pagka-file lang, kasi alam ko maraming discussion tungkol sa sino ba dapat ang mag-file ng for candidacy, dapat pa beyond COC, dapat pa mag-file din ba ng NBI clearance? Pero I think that's for another discussion. So while Ian is out, let's balikan natin yung mga pinag-uusapan natin in the past few 18 minutes. First is ang final against Marcos ay cancel his COC. Hindi to yung to disqualify dahil iba separate to at ang grounds ng pag-file nila ay yung tax conviction nung 1990s na ginawa di umano ni Marcos nung siya vice governor pa lamang. So ayun Lian, next question, can you walk us through kung ano yung possible na steps sa mga ganitong petition? Like, hanggang saan ito aabot and posible ba umabot to? As you mentioned nga kanina sa aabot to possible sa SC, pero hindi siya automatic, di ba?
Yeah, actually, this would reach Supreme Court basing on the determination of those who are petitioning to cancel the COC of Marcos. Kasi kahit anong mangyari, may mag-a-appeal. Let's say that the COMELEC denies the petitions to cancel the COC of Marcos. The group of Tedte and the group of Howie Calleja will go to the Supreme Court, for sure. So, and they've said that on record. So, kung kinancel naman ng COMELEC ang COC ni Bongbong Marcos, Bongbong will for sure also go to the Supreme Court. And this is what happened to Grace Poe in 2016, kung naalala nyo. he was disqualified. She was disqualified by COMELEC in December 2015 for supposedly not being a natural-born Filipino. She went to the Supreme Court, and March 2016, 2 months before the election, lang ibinaba ng Supreme Court ang desisyon, declaring her a natural-born Filipino and eligible to run for president. So that's the route we're looking at. For sure, aabot to ng Supreme Court.
Are we already predicting how long this will take?
Yung petitions to cancel the COC, sabi ni Director James Jimenez of COMELEC kanina ay they are aiming na sana ma-resolve na yung mga petition na to before they come out official candidates, diba? They're just aspirants. Sabi ni Director Jimenez kanina, they're aiming na before sila mag-release ng official list of candidates by December, they would have already resolved the petitions not just against Bongbong Marcos, but all the petitions filed against all the candidates. And I think Director Jimenez kanina said they have 91 petitions lodged before the COMELEC. So yun, and dun naman kay Grace Poe, they really did resolve it in December 2015. Siguro it's practicality also to give the litigation time to to go through the judicial mill para pagdating ng botohan sa May, wala nang, parang okay na, planchado na.
Yeah. And you mentioned kanina na posible siyang na okay, maayos nga ng COMELEC magbabasa ng desisyon, pero most likely, itataas ito hanggang Supreme Court. If abutin nito hanggang Supreme Court, maraming back and forth, ano yung posibleng mga repercussions or consequences na nakita mo? Can this cast a shadow on the overall campaign or even the whole election period as a whole, hindi lang sa kandidaturan ni Marcos?
Napagdaanan na kasi natin to noong 2016. We'll just have to recall what our experience was. I think the Grace Poe experience affected us only in the aspect of we didn't know. Parang kunyari sa botante, parang hindi mo, kung if you were a Grace Poe voter, there was a time that you had to consider who your second choice would be kasi hindi ka sure kung makakatakbo yung manok mo, kumbaga, ganun. And siguro for Grace Poe, that affected her negatively kasi bukod sa magampanya, kailangan niyang hatiin yung resources niya sa pagharap nung kasong yun. And that's what the Marcos camp is saying, that imbes na hayaan na lang daw ang COMELEC na mag-focus sana sa pag-prepare para sa darating na election, binigyan mo pa ng additional burden in resolving these petitions. But that's if you ask them. Well, if you ask naman the petitioners, this is a good exercise of democratic rights and political rights, and for them, hindi karapat-dapat manungkulan bilang isang presidente ang isang tax convict, so never mind the hassle.
Yeah. And with election petitions, sobrang tricky nito, no? Hindi siya straightforward lang, unlike other issues sa pinag-uusapan natin sa podcast na to. Alam ko maraming nuances din itong petitions against Marcos. Hindi siya strong, hindi mo sabing strong, pero hindi siya agad-agad na swak, or hindi mo sabi agad na this will stick with COMELEC or this will not stick, or umabot to ang magiging successful or hindi magiging successful. Pero ano dapat yung i-take into consideration sa mga discourse surrounding these petitions niyan? Ano yung dapat, pag pinag-uusapan ng mga tao to, ano yung dapat lagi nilang alalahanin na dapat hindi mawawala sa mga explanation nila or sa pag-discuss nila sa mga kapamilya nila, kaibigan nila, or mga communities nila?
Alright, siguro the basic thing is stick to facts. Marcos was convicted in 1997 by the Court of Appeals of 4 counts of failure to file an ITR. That's basic. Hindi naman yan dinideny. That's very undeniable. The legal debates are very valid. Yung bang pagtanggal ng imprisonment, does that remove the cloud of disqualification? We don't know. Is failure to file an ITR a crime of moral turpitude? We don't know. Siguro, it's also a welcome opportunity for us in the Supreme Court to say if failure to file an ITR is a crime of moral turpitude. Yung isang pinupunto nung Calleja petition rests on the tax code. Kasi the tax code, both in 1977 and in the succeeding amendments in 1985 and 1997, if I'm not mistaken, nakalagay doon na anyone who is convicted under this law, under the tax code, if that person is a public officer, he or she shall be perpetually disqualified from holding public office. So that's what the tax code says. So the Calleja petition is saying, wala na nga kaming kailangang dapat misrepresentation, disqualification, kasi the law itself says when you have been convicted under the tax code, you are perpetually disqualified from running for public office. And so the COMELEC only has to do this is the petition, not me. And the COMELEC only has to do its job and say, under the tax code, you are perpetually disqualified because that judgment has been rendered final. Yun lang naman kasi yung mahirap sa mga ganito eh. Alam mo, ang dami-daming public official na perpetually disqualified from running for public office, but they're still in positions because their judgments are not final yet. Nasa Court of Appeals pa, or nasa Supreme Court pa. Ito, this has been rendered final. So that's what the Calleja petition is pointing out. But kasi yung Court of Appeals decision does not say it. It does not explicitly say that Marcos is perpetually disqualified from running for public office. It just says acquitted for the failure to file income tax, guilty beyond reasonable doubt for the failure to file ITR, ordering him to pay the BIR, the deficiency income taxes with interest, and ordering him to pay a fine of 2,000 for each charge for the 3 counts, and then 30,000 for the 1 count. So that's 36,000. And then yung pirma na ng mga justice. So wala. But the Calleja petition says, citing some Supreme Court decisions na a judgment does not necessarily have to explicitly say that you have been disqualified from running for public office. Kung yun yung sinasabi ng batas, if that is the accessory penalty of the law, judgments need not spell it out. So that's one of the petitions. But again, I'm saying that the Calleja petition is not an official petition yet because they have to seek permission for the COMELEC to accept their petition kasi late nga sila nag-file.
Yeah. And Lian, I'm reading your comments and I just wanted to ask you for the record kasi marami nagsasabi, bakit daw si Senator De Lima pinayagang tumakbo? I think di ba re-election siya this time kasi this is the only election na nakakulong siya. Bakit ba't siya pinayagang tumakbo? For the record, let's answer that.
All right. Disqualified ka lang if the judgment against you is final and executory. So kapag sinabi na ng Supreme Court na final na, or in Bongbong Marcos's case, Court of Appeals level lang kasi hindi nga siya nag-appeal. Senator De Lima has 3 charges. In 1, she was acquitted. In 2, wala pang conviction. So she has actually not been convicted by any court just yet.
Yeah.
She is on trial. And that's also what happens with Senator Trillanes. He was on trial for coup and rebellion when he ran and was elected for senator. And then, well, finally, na-amnesty rin naman siya. So, nabura rin naman yung conviction niya. But yeah, you are only disqualified if the judgment has been made final by the Supreme Court or any other lower court na hindi mo na in-appeal. As we speak, Senator De Lima has not been convicted by any court.
Yeah, so ayun, I hope that's clear for our audience. Lian, para sa mga audience natin na kakarating pa lang, can you give us a siguro or just a short breakdown what the court will need to determine regarding this petition? You mentioned kanina yung mga walang mga precedent pa sa mga sa jurisdiction natin. Ano yung dapat yung I think you mentioned 3 or 2?
Well, siguro sa COMELEC muna kasi sila naman yung unang mag-decide nito. Sa COMELEC, if we're only to base in the petitions to cancel COC, they would need to determine if matatawag ba talagang misrepresentation yung ginawa ni Bongbong Marcos. Kasi ano yun it's a box sa COC na nakalagay na you are eligible to run and then you have not been held liable for an offense that disqualified you from running public office. And he ticked both boxes. And The petitions are saying that's misrepresentation. Siguro sasabihin ng abogado nila, hindi naman yun willful misrepresentation because as far as I am concerned, I've been able to run and win and serve in the last 20 years or so or 15 years or so, and wala namang sentence sa akin. So as far as I know, ako ay eligible, and in fact, COMELEC has allowed me before. So pwede nilang sabihin yun na kung mali man yung nilagay ko sa box, that's not willful misrepresentation. Para ganun, hindi siya deliberate. That's one defense they can say. And then, if you go into the merits, is Bongbong Marcos really disqualified under the election code? Number one, wala nga siyang sentence. So, paano yun? Number two is failure to file an ITR, a crime of moral turpitude. And number three, did the tax code impose an accessory penalty of disqualification on him that renders him ineligible to run for public office when, in fact, yun nga, nanalo na siyang congressman, governor, senator, and he was able to run for vice president in 2016. At yun nga, again, dun pumapasok yung Halos-Hos versus COMELEC na sinight ng Kaliaha petition. So if the viewers have time to read that, I'm just repeating, GR number 193237.
Lian, siguro ito, very existential question about the law or about our justice system. Bakit over the past
existential question.
Yeah. Over the past 6 years, ang dami-daming mga issues na walang precedent, or if mabigyan ng judgment, ay it will set precedent sa mga sa jurisdiction natin, or it will be jurisdiction. Bakit ganun yung laws natin na tipong dapat like yes or no, dapat ganun 'di ba sa law, kasi nga law should be pero bakit yung tipong imbes na yung law sasagot sa baka inihain ng mga petisyon, parang nagko-open pa ng floodgates into questions about our laws, yung mga petitions na lumalabas in the past. I'm not sure hindi na to sa past 6 years, pero in general sa Pilipinas, bakit ganun?
To have a legal landscape, or to have a society where the law can be as simple as yes or no, will be such an ideal society. It will be utopia. Parang yun, it would be an ideal world, it would be a perfect world, but unfortunately, and actually, fortunately, the law has a lot of nuances, and jurisprudence is ever-changing. Parang actually, yun naman ang isa sa mga kagandahan, I guess, ng batas, that it adapts to the times. Imagine mo, wala namang right to suffrage ang mga babae. Dati meron tayong death penalty. Ano pa ba? Dati meron tayong death penalty. Ngayon, meron ng karapatan yung mga babaeng bumoto. Wala ng death penalty sa Pilipinas. Pwede na ang same-sex marriage sa Amerika. So, maganda that the law can change and jurisprudence can change because it allows society to grow. And yung disadvantage nun na nakikita nyo, yun nga, ito, na nagugulo tayo, na hindi natin alam, na parang bakit nakatakbo kung disqualified naman pala. Maybe that's just one of the pains that we have to live with in order to also enjoy the advantage of an ever-changing law, if that makes sense.
And then the stakeholders should be vigilant to ensure na yung mga ganyan na mga odd sides hindi na abuse or hindi take advantage ng mga tao.
Yeah, yan naman yung role talaga ng not only the legal profession, hindi lang ng mga civil rights and human rights lawyers, but the civil society in general, journalists also, and the general public, na bantayan nyo. Our laws are not perfect, but pinaghirapan naman to ng mga framers natin. So maganda naman yung constitution natin. So it's just up to the Filipinos to uphold the rule of law and see where it takes us.
Yes. And for my last question, Ian, you mentioned kanina na it's not just the legal world that should be following this, also the civil society. But beyond the civil society, bakit nga ba dapat bantayan ng publiko, like the general public, outside you and me in our immediate circle, yung mga ganitong pangyayari na hindi lang mag-file ng petition kay Bongbong, but yung mga challenges sa candidacies ng mga aspirants for 2022, bakit kailangan bantayan, bakit siya kailangan i-treat na hindi lang noise, but beyond noise, that a process na kailangan mangyari?
Because we deserve to grill the applicants for the highest jobs. Imagine mo tayo nga mag-a-apply lang, nagbabayad pa tayo for NBI clearance, kung ano-anong pinapagawa sa atin, yung comprehension test sa atin. Naalala ko yung comprehension test ko for my first job. Ako, parang sumakit pa yung ulo ko kasi may fraction, may shapes, and whatever. Ilang interview tayo sa salang, di ba, magpapa-medical test pa tayo, blood test pa tayo kung saan, and di ba, naggumagastos tayo para doon. And that's an ordinary Filipino going through a simple job interview. So what more do we require from those applying for the most trusted and most privileged and most powerful jobs in the country? So actually, we are entitled to subject the candidates to a grilling application process. And if that takes petitions to cancel COC, or just, being simply vigilant and following the news and actively participating and actively engaging in discussions, then we should do it. Kasi ang daming karapatan na hindi natin ma-exercise. Voting is one of the most powerful and the easiest civil right that we can exercise, and nobody can take it away from us, and we can exercise it with our full discretion. So, bakit hindi natin ito take advantage, di ba?
Yes, so no truer words said, Lian. As Lian mentioned, we should engage in discourse about the elections. If kayo mga audience namin, you want to join the discussion on elections, specifically with Raptor, pwede kayo sumali sa Facebook ng Raptor. This is the page both sa Facebook. I'll send the link, either the screen or sa comment section. If gusto niyo naman na sumali sa discussion on general Philippine issues, pwede ka sumali sa Raptor Room. You can find the link sa comment section and the screen natin. And of course, thank you so much, Lian, for joining me today. Alam ko, it's been a very busy weekend. And parang mas busy pa dahil malapit na ang campaign season, malapit na mag-final.
At malapit na muna ang substitution deadline on Monday. So yun yung ikakabisi ng lahat sa atin, tayong lahat dito.
Yes. And Lian, pwede mo bang i-promote yung podcast mo? Yung, when they want to, of course, we talk about the law here kanina, di ba? So baka they want to learn more about the specific issues. Can you plug in your podcast?
Okay, so please search on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you get your podcast. The Law of Duterte Land podcast. It's hosted by me, and our latest episode, I think, discusses human rights as an election agenda. So if you have pitches for what other topics we can discuss, or kung sinong guest yung gusto nyong makita, just tag me on Twitter. Meron ba akong card dyan? Parang wish. It's here.
Yeah. And nandyan na yung card dyan, Lian Buwan. Makain naman na si Des Cavilan. Yeah.
So, at Lian Buwan on Twitter.
Yeah, Lian naman is always online, and she will always answer your tweets sa kanya. Basta hindi kayo bastos or hindi kayo troll. So, and for our viewers, thank you for watching. Kung gusto niyo sundan ang issue na to, huwag kalimutan na palaging bisitahin ng Rappler website. Kung hindi niyo pa nagagawa at napansin niyo lang sa feed niyo yung video na to, make sure to like the Facebook page of Rappler, yung Twitter namin i-follow niyo, pati na rin ang Newsbreak. Samahan niyo rin kami next week para sa bagong episode ng show na to. Hopefully, si Lian ulit ang guest namin next week. Wow, di na makasino si Lian dahil sinabi ko na on air. So, yeah. Again, ako si Judes Cavilan, and this is Newsbreak Beyond the Stories.